Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. The great Ella Fitzgerald once said, "The only thing better than more singing is more singing." And that is very much the guiding spirit of tonight as we celebrate great voices of New York City in this special event. Together we sing. My name's Clemency Burton-Hill. I'm delighted to be Creative Director of Music and Arts at WQXR and very, very delighted to be your host for this evening. We have such an incredible evening of music making ahead of us. Our backstage is filled with musicians, including no fewer than 2 choirs, 3 opera singers, all ready to inspire us with the power of the human voice. So without further ado, we will get started. Our first guests are out on a school night. They do have to get home and do their homework, so we won't mess around. Please welcome the boy members of the Choir of St. Thomas here in New York, celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. Thank you. Now, the St. Thomas Boys Choir is really one of the cultural treasures of New York City. It's one of the leading ensembles of its kind in the Anglican choral tradition here in the US. They perform in 5 services a week at their 5th Avenue location. Who's been there? Hopefully all of you. If not, there are services every day, so get yourselves up there. They are the last choir school in the US that exists solely to supply the choir. The only other 2 in the world, I think, with the same status are Westminster Abbey and Escolania de Montserrat. So they really are a very, very unique institution indeed, and we're so thrilled to have them here. They're led by the St. Thomas organist and director of music, Jeremy Filsell. Welcome, Jeremy. He took over that covetable position in April of this year. We're going to hear 5 selections sung by the choir, starting with Light of the World by John Dankworth. Ladies and gentlemen, the Choir of St. Thomas.
That is
Thank you so much. A very special thanks to our soloist, Benjamin Osborne. Singing the Pie Jesu from Fauré's Requiem. And before that, we heard the Litany to the Holy Spirit by Hereford, and the St. Thomas's Choir of Boys started with Light of the World by John Dankworth. We'll hear a little more from the choir shortly, but first of all, Jeremy, you got a microphone there? No? Okay. Well, please, yes, take care stepping over the... wonderful to have you all here. This is such a special year, celebrating 100 years. Now, we're both Brits, and in some ways 100 years might seem quite recent to us, but I think for the US that's definitely what we would call a tradition. Tell us what sort of celebrations you've got in this special centenary year.
Well, there have been a number of events that we've been involved with. I've only been here since last Easter, so I've only picked up the trail ends, really, of the centennial celebrations. But we had a major concert 2 weeks ago where we did a concert with the Orchestra of St. Luke's, and we performed a cantata by T. Tertius Noble, who's a name pretty unknown to most people, but he was the founder of the choir school, along with a number of others, of course, but he was transplanted from England, in fact from York Minster, to come and found the St. Thomas Choir School in 1919. And he wrote this cantata when he was in York in England, and it has been performed in St. Thomas, but not for 100 years. So we performed that as part of our centennial celebrations and to mark T. Tertius Noble, sort of a remarkable legacy to us today.
I mentioned that you are the last choir school in the US that exists solely to supply a choir. It makes it a very, very remarkable institution. Boys, what do you make of it all? Do you like being at a choir school?
Yes.
They sort of have to say that, but it is in many ways an unusual sort of life. You know, we're increasingly hearing that classical music, that traditions such as the, Anglican tradition, they're sort of being marginalised from culture in many ways. Give us a sense of what the boys' life is like there, and how if it differs from a regular education, and why it's so special, and why it matters that it exists.
Gosh, how long have we got? Well, there's questions. Well, I mean, the school, yes, exists very much on the English model that has been the case in English cathedrals, certainly since monastic times, the 9th and the 10th centuries, where monastic schools grew and monks took choristers to sing their services for them in afternoons, and in order for them to have the boys for that period of time, they educated them at a time when, of course, general education was not commonplace. That's how choir schools began, and so in many ways this school replicates that. So we sing the office of evensong virtually every day. That's the raison d'etre of this choir, and the reason for its existence, and the fulcrum around which everything else spins. So the things that we do in terms of concerts and appearances like this are literally sort of addenda to the real point of the choir, which is to provide the Opus Dei, the work of God, in a great building, great music in a great space. And we try and do that to the best of our collective abilities on a day-by-day basis. And in order to do that, particularly for these guys, their intensive education is intensive across the board, not just musical, but academic and sporting as well. But of course, the focus for everything that we do is the musical, so that their theory lessons and their piano lessons and singing lessons all contribute to what we do every day. And we rehearse for nearly an hour and a half every morning, 8 o'clock every morning. These guys are singing in rehearsal.
Puts us all to shame, really.
Kind
of discipline.
So it's intensive, but in order to produce the kind of results that we have, that has to be the case.
Well, and it's a gift to society. I think whatever your background, whatever your faith, or if you have none, there's something extremely consoling about the fact of the presence of a choir like this in the world today. I was thinking, as you were singing that beautiful Hereford, that idea of comfort and consolation. What do you make of that, the idea that a choir is almost more than the sum of its parts, what it represents as a kind of collective model for togetherness, for community, for kinship, for all
Well, of course, we
know
that St. Augustine said that he who sings prays twice, and there's an obvious adage to be taken there. But I think that what we do is, everything that we do is really about the pursuit of beauty. And we sing in great buildings. What is the great building about? The pursuit of beauty. Whether it's the stained glass, or whether it's the organs, or the statuary, or the music that happens within it. It's all this aspirational quality, and we try and do that. And of course, not only those aspirational benefits do we have, but the sociological and psychological benefits of singing in a choir, and the camaraderie and the friendships of playing, living, singing together, are manifold. So
and we all
it's
get
the
to
holistic
be
experience.
the great beneficiaries of that. You mentioned a very obscure composer in a way. Coming up, of course, we are coming into Messiah season, the annual St. Thomas Messiah, which is an absolutely unmissable event on the New York cultural calendar. We're going to hear two more selections. We're going to hear The Lord is My Shepherd, followed by a little Gershwin. Thank you so much, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Water
Thank you so much to Jeremy Filsell and the boys of St Thomas Church. And what a wonderful thing it is to have you all here. Nothing like that, is that extraordinary sound. Thank you again. We heard By Strauss by George and Ira Gershwin, and before that, The Lord is My Shepherd, the Brother James's Heir. Thank you very much indeed to the St Thomas Choir and Jeremy Filsell. Thank you. If you want to hear more of that celestial sound, you can find listings of all of the choir's concerts at stthomaschurch.org, including, as I mentioned, those Messiah concerts, which really are not to be missed. Now, earlier this year, in January, in fact, it was my great honour to launch a new initiative for WQXR, our inaugural annual Artists to Watch programme, which we dubbed 19 for 19. And yes, we will be launching 20 for 20 next January. The idea behind this programme was that we would gather together artists from many different stages of their career, classical artists who we felt were doing some of the most exciting work in the business. Artists from many different backgrounds, playing different instruments, indeed singers, composers. And one of the people that I absolutely knew that I wanted on this list when I launched it was the baritone Devon Tynes. He's been described by the Los Angeles Times as a singer of immense power and fervor. He is such an interesting figure, successfully straddling the worlds of traditional opera and contemporary music. And he's also a great dynamic presence in commissioning new work and working with contemporary composers. He was highly praised for his work this past summer in The Black Clown, which was inspired by the poem by Langston Hughes. And Devon also helped develop that musical theatre experience, which bridges vaudeville, opera, jazz, and spirituals. He's also been working very closely with composers such as Kaya Sariaho, John Adams, and Caroline Shaw. And he has many highlights of the season, including the premiere of David Lang's Prisoner of the State, his new take on Fidelio, that was with the BBC Symphony, and singing Schumann with Louis Longray and the Cincinnati Symphony. I'm absolutely delighted that Devon can join us this evening. He's going to be singing 3 selections, 2 of them featuring special guest and harpist Ashley Jackson. Looking forward to chatting with Devon afterwards, but please join me in giving him a very warm welcome also to Ashley. Devon Tynes.
Good evening. How are you? Good to see you. Tonight I wanted to sing 3 songs that are connected in a way. The first is a spiritual called Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. It was featured in the piece The Black Clown that I helped create this past summer. The next is a piece by Brahms called Die Mainacht, which is a German art song. And then the last piece is something that I made up with a composer just 2 weeks ago in Amsterdam, kind of a mix of, I guess, the idea of French chanson and gospel in a subtle way, we'll see. But with the first song, I need your help. So who's willing to volunteer or help? Anyone? Well, you're saved because all of you have to help me with it. So you probably didn't think you would come to a program about the voice and think you would need to sing yourself. But I'm going to see how we can do this. So who considers themselves a lower voice? Kind of altos, basses. Raise your hand. Yeah? Yeah? Lower voices? Higher or middle voices? Yeah? Okay. So the lower voices, we're going to have you just do a simple ooh on a D. So if you play a D, ooh, and you're going to keep that going, and then people with the higher or middle voices are going to sing an A. So, ooh. So at the same time, ooh. Beautiful. A little louder. A little less. Wonderful. Okay, and so does anyone know what stagger breathing is? Anyone? Can you tell us? Yes.
Staggered breathing is when you try never to let the sound die.
Right. You keep it going Don't let the sound die. So when you run out of breath, just take another breath and keep singing. Everyone will kind of do that at a different time, but it just keeps the sound going. So just please begin and don't stop until I give you a signal to cut off. Okay? It'll last a little bit of time. So give a D and an A. Ooh, ooh. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Singing, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, glory, hallelujah. I'm sometimes up and I'm sometimes in town, singing, nobody knows my sorrow. I'm almost level to the ground, singing, glory, yes, glory, hallelujah. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Singing, nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Singing, glory, yes, glory, hallelujah. Glory, yes, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Licht über den Rasen streut und die Nachtigall flütet, wandliest traurig vom Busch zu überhüllt vom Laub, giert ein Taubenpaar seinen Zücken mir aber ich wende mich, suche dunkle
leuchtendes Bild, welches wie Morgenrot durch die Seele missrallt, find ich auf Erden dich. Und die einsame Träne gibt mir heißer
Thank you so much. Wonderful Ashley Jackson on harp and baritone Devon Tynes. Devon, thank you so much for being here. That was an absolutely spellbinding program. Tell us how you put it together, because it really shows off, a little bit of the huge, vast range that you have as a singer.
Sure. Well, when I was asked to be a part of this and it was about the voice, I was thinking a bit about what that meant. And, everyone has a voice, right? We all vibrate our vocal cords in order to try to communicate something. So it's important that when we choose to do that, we're clear about it, and we hopefully try to listen to and connect to other people while doing it. So that's why I asked you all to join me in singing a bit, because, I can sing about Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen, but it doesn't matter unless you hear that and we kind of move forward in a kind of mutual understanding. So we sang that, and then I wanted to show that there's connection between different genres and styles. So Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen really does connect to this Brahms song, which is about someone losing a loved one. Maybe in Brahms's tradition and idea, it's about, a partner or, some lover that he was in a relationship with. I consider that to be about my mother, who passed away in 2009. So in order for me to realize how I can connect to German art song in thinking about someone I love that's lost, that's where I go. So Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. Well, here is the trouble. And then the final piece is a bit of a prayer, hopefully about hope, or some sort of a prayer for a removal of that pain or that plight. So hopefully we can all be together in doing that. And so it's partly a hope that I shared a bit of what I may be or going through or what have you, but hopefully as an example to do that and engage that with each other and further than this space. So.
Well, thank you. How did we do?
You did great.
Okay.
You did great, yes.
Well done, everybody.
Yeah.
You can all say that you made your Greene Space debut this evening. Thank you very much, everybody. It is called Together We Sing, after all, and thank you. It was an incredibly special moment, and I think tonight is all about celebrating, as I said, the power of the human voice and what magic can happen when people come together to sing, which is something that is so fundamental to who we are as human beings. Now, you, Devon, had an interesting route into a professional career as an opera singer. You studied sociology at Harvard. Was that almost a different career, or were you always going to be a musician?
I think I started studying sociology because I didn't know what I wanted to do. In undergrad, a liberal arts education like at Harvard University offers a lot of opportunity to explore different things. Sociology was the most interesting, I think, because I knew I was interested in the arts, mainly because people make it and consume it, and it's something that we, I guess, need. That's why it still exists in our culture. So I wanted to understand a little more about why that was. Not knowing that it would lead to a career in performing arts, I thought I would work as an administrator, hopefully understanding what's going on. But yeah, it was a blessing that it turned into something else.
Nothing against administrators, but I'm so glad that you are not one.
Oh, thank you.
I mentioned, you did also go on to Juilliard, I should hasten to add. So at that point, it was a stellar career beckoned. You have a wonderful mix in your career of traditional opera, contemporary music. How important is it to you to continue to sort of push boundaries in terms of the repertoire that you sing and indeed the shows that you help to make?
I think it's critical to do what's called pushing boundaries. I mean, I think if you just honestly engage the art making that you're doing, boundaries will be pushed or, supported. I mean, some things that are there we can build on. So I think it's really healthy to make new things, think about new ideas, new ways of, engaging the human experience, but also respecting the fact that there are many beautiful documents of things that exist. So when you bring those into life again, I think it's only personally really rewarding if there's a reason, like a apparent, like, I guess, thrust of why we want to go back in time to deal with something, to think about the present.
Now, you have some very exciting projects coming up. Tell us more. What are you most looking forward to?
Let's see. Well, most directly, I'm going to Cincinnati to sing Schumann's Das Paradies und die Peri, which is a beautiful...
Amazing piece.
Oh, so beautiful.
Not performed enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous, like a young, kind of vibrant Schumann, kind of breaking rules before he got kind of sad. And then after that, I'll be going to Boston to work on Hans Werner Henze's El Cimarron, which is a really modern piece. We did it at the Met Museum earlier this year, and it transfers to the American Repertory Theater. And that's kind of a very different thing, myself alone with a flute player, a guitar player, and a percussionist playing 84 4 instruments, like a literal forest of percussion that I run around.
They are very hard-working percussionists,
Sure.
aren't they? They
Oh
don't
my
really get enough
goodness.
glory, I think, for the amount of
Yeah.
work they have to do.
Yeah, and then the end of this year, I'll be working a bit with Anthony Roth Costanzo, who's singing Akhenaten at the Met right now, beautifully.
Beautifully.
Oh my goodness. And we'll be working on Handel's Accigalite Polifemo, which we'll do in San Francisco with a Baroque orchestra there.
Wow, what a combination. Well, Devon, we're absolutely thrilled to have you as a member of our inaugural Artists to Watch scheme, 19 for 19. Thank you for being part of the WQXR family.
Surely.
Thank you for being here tonight. Devon Tynes, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Speaking of the Metropolitan Opera, we at WQXR are incredibly excited and proud that season 2 of our podcast, Aria Code, has just dropped last week. If you aren't familiar with Aria Code, then what I would have you all do, you've already sung, so honestly the hardest part's already happened. Pull out your phones, if not right now, then afterwards. Go into your baked-in podcast app, find Aria Code and click subscribe, because it really is a feast for the soul. It's been celebrated everywhere from the New Yorker to the New York Times and beyond. It is hosted by the Grammy Award-winning musician Rhiannon Giddens, and she and her guests essentially reveal the magic of opera one aria at a time. Episode 1 dropped last week. There'll be a new one coming on Wednesday, but if you hit subscribe, you will never miss an episode. It features some really, really wonderful guests, including in the first episode, Dame Judi Dench. Shout out to Dame Judi. So please do listen along to Aria Code. We are really proud of it. And the whole point of Aria Code really is to share the magic and the wonder of opera. And we are so honoured and thrilled to be able to do that in partnership with the Metropolitan Opera, who we've produced the podcast with. And speaking of the Met, our next 2 guests this evening at the Greene Space are both singing in that storied opera house this very season. Our next singer, in fact, is about to make his Met debut as Prince Yeletsky. That's in the upcoming production of Tchaikovsky's Queen of Spades. It opens at the Met on the 29th of November. This season, Igor Golovatenko, I should have said. Igor is also performing at the Paris Opera, at the Bavarian State Opera, and at the Royal Opera House, to name but a few. We are absolutely thrilled that he can join us at the Greene Space tonight. Please welcome Igor Golovatenko. Igor is going to give us a taster of what's to come at the Met. He'll be singing Yeletsky's aria from Queen of Spades, simply called I Love You, and he's joined this evening by his recital partner, Natalia Katyukova. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Igor Golovatenko singing Prince Yeletsky's aria, I Love You. I won't attempt to say it in the Russian. You can tell us the title.
Я вас люблю.
So good. I'm so glad I didn't attempt that one. That, of course, is from Tchaikovsky's opera Queen of Spades, in which Igor is very soon to make his Metropolitan Opera debut. Igor, how does that feel? Well, right, exactly.
It's actually very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's a great stage, Met stage. It's a legendary great stage, and I'm really looking forward to it. No.
Any nerves at all?
Oh, just a bit, but not so much.
And it's very easy for us. I'm sure many people in the room this evening will have gone to the Met, and we all, as spectators, revel in the magic of it. But is it possible to put into words just what makes it such a special opera house?
Oh yeah, it's only maybe it's only opera house in the world. I mean, it's huge. It's speaking of legendary, I mean that every great singer and conductor has been there. So which makes this opera theater sort of exceptional, So I think it's really good to be an event in my life, a special event. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I think that's one way of putting it. So no pressure then. Tell us what we can look forward to in this particular production, because the Queen of Spades is not always in the main repertoire, and I don't know how regularly. I think this production hasn't been done at the Met since 2011. So what can we look forward to?
It's true, but actually it's one of the most performed Tchaikovsky's operas, because here are 10 operas, and we hardly know all of them, because it's mostly Onegin, Queen of Spades, and maybe Yolanta, the most performed opera of Tchaikovsky. But still, I think this production is going to be very beautiful and very traditional, which I love, because when there's sort of things, because many times when we pronounce some text and we're supposed to see something on stage happening, and I love the traditional productions because it does correspond. I mean, the text which you pronounce, and I mean there's some items on stage. Okay, so sometimes. No, I remember some productions which in maybe which are not so traditional, and it's quite hard for audience to imagine some things, and even to understand what is going on stage, because it's opera in Russian, and it's quite hard to understand what's going on. So I really love this production, which is very beautiful, very traditional, and I think you're really gonna love it.
Well, we are very much looking forward to it. Lots of people think that opera is an art form that really doesn't have much relevance to society, and I'm not asking you to solve that conundrum for us. I suspect you're preaching rather to the converted in here. But if you could sum up, Igor, what opera means to you and why it matters.
You mean in one word?
Just one.
It's just my life. It's just my life. I love music. I love to sing. I love opera. Opera is actually alive, because when you play some character on stage, you live. I mean, you live with this character, and you put your own emotions and your feelings into this character, because otherwise, it's worth be on stage and play, because it's true. It's true. This aria is one of the greatest highlights of Tchaikovsky's music, and when Prince Yeletsky says to Lisa, "I love you," he really means it, because maybe he's only person in the opera who really loves the girl. So it's just life. The many events which you can see in the opera, they happen in real life. So it's just life like a profession, and life like some staging events of your own life. It's very it's very mixed up. It's really very interesting.
I think you've nailed it. Opera is life. There we go. Who can get behind that statement? Igor Golovatenko, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. And thank you also to Natalia Katyukova. She will also be remaining on stage for our next performance. Our next guest is having a rare night off from singing Mimi in La Bohème at the Met. Did someone just say, oh my gosh, exactly, I know, we're very lucky to have her. The New York Times calls Eileen Perez a major soprano who commands the stage, and I'm sure anyone who has seen her in action will agree with that. She has performed in all of the world's leading opera houses. She's performed here at the Greene Space. She's a great friend and very much part of the WQXR family. We love her. She's won the Richard Tucker Award in 2012, and we're so thrilled that she has made the time on her night off on a rainy Monday in New York to join this celebration of the voice. Please join me in welcoming Eileen Perez. Now, I mentioned that Eileen is currently singing Mimi in La Bohème, but we're very lucky she's going to treat us to another opera this evening, because in April she will be back at the Met singing in Simon Boccanegra, and she will be singing for us this evening, How in the Morning Light. I'm not even going to attempt to do that in another language, so thank you very much. We'll be hearing Verdi. Eileen Perez. Wow, from Verdi's Simon Boccanegra, that was How in the Morning Light, Emilia's aria. Wonderful soprano Eileen Perez, joined once again by Natalia Katyukova. Brava. Eileen, thank you so much. I mentioned that you're at the Met at the moment singing Mimi, and you've come here on your night off, so thank you.
What a great way to spend a rainy Monday with you. This is my favorite radio station, really. What a program. What an amazing program. And everyone's making me cry before I even get out here. And you're in store for more. So thank you for featuring these wonderful voices and the wonderful programs and artists that exist here in New York, only in New York.
It's true.
Thank you for your support. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
You made your debut at another legendary opera house, La Scala, singing Emilia in Simon Boccanegra, and now you're coming back to the Met in April. What does this role mean to you?
Oh, it's an incredible opportunity. I think that to sing Verdi is to have your feet on the ground and also try to reach heaven all at the same time. He has a magical way. I mean, when you hear what Natalia created also gorgeously here, orchestrated, it changes the room from war and chaos and a people who are desperately in terror to this beautiful moment just before dawn where Amelia is one of the only female voices in the whole opera, the whole night, and it's that moment of beauty and peace. So it feels like an honor and like you're just trying to bring the gold and the light into the darkness of war and trying to convince the men, come on, choose love, not honor, please, once. But then we wouldn't have opera, you know?
It's true. It's the only reason by which it's the only way that we're actually happy for people not to choose love is because then we get all these cracking opera plots. You are coming back in April for Boccanegra. You're here, as I said, singing Mimi. What does the Met mean for you? Because you have the pick of opera houses in many ways. You go all around the world. But tell us about singing at the Met.
Oh, I'd be delighted to. When you have an historic opera house, like the Metropolitan Opera, it's an international point of arrival in a way, or it's where it's not lost on me. I'm in awe when I go to work because in the next rehearsal room are all of the stars of now. I mean, they're all in the same house doing, 5 operas a week and now a Sunday matinee, with we just did a first Q&A this past Sunday in Bohème, and it has such a long tradition, and yet there are so many young artists and young students, and the casts are growing in diversity and allowing access, and we're keeping this vibrant art form vibrant by just being and sharing with one another and actually bringing the humanity back, I think, in a time when we really need it, don't we? I mean, we just need to be inspired to action, inspired to take a moment of repose and realign and maybe go, see the magic flute and think of beauty and harmony and how we can do our own part. And I thank you all because I know I'm preaching to the choir here, and it's just as the common thread that I keep hearing, and it's so true, it's about connection. The stories that we're playing, we're connecting to the music emotionally, and we bring our own to the table in terms of interpretation, but it's the chemistry of everyone. It's Natalia and I feeling free and able to just sink our souls and just serve, and in the audience we feel you as well. So it's for everyone. It's an amazing art form. I feel grateful every day.
To be fair, this audience It's true. I do feel every day that WQXR has the best audience in the world, and they've been working very hard this evening. Devon had them all singing along. Will you get them singing along?
I wish I could. Can you take a B flat with me?
You, Eileen, are clearly lit up and so inspired by what you do and by singing, and you in turn inspire so many people, whether it's young artists. You were the first Latin singer to win the Richard Tucker Award in 2012. That must have been it's a big responsibility, and you are a huge role model in so many ways. Is there any type of music that people would be surprised that you're really into besides opera and classical?
Well, I'm meeting more. No, I don't know if it's a surprise, but I have a wonderful. No, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to talk about opera. But yeah, no, I'm returning to the love of my life, which is boleros and Mexican songs that I just grew up singing. So actually, next month in San Diego, if you're traveling, on December 11th, a recital with Josh Guerrero presenting opera arias and duets, and now taking this point in my career to say, and this is the music that I go home to and listen to recharge my heart, or to being in our own language. As you know, you somehow another part of you, and maybe a deeper part of you, or a deeper part of me, resonates and speaks, and maybe in a different voice, or maybe a little more confidence. And I definitely feel that when I sing in Spanish. There's nothing like singing in your mother tongue. So I'm doing more of that, and more of listening to that.
Can you please? Much as I'm sure we would all love to hop over to San Diego, for those of us who can't, will you please bring that program to New York and back here?
I accept the invitation, absolutely. Yes. That would be incredible.
Right, who wants to see that?
So we'll have a Noche Mexicana here. Sound good? All right, I know some people.
Sounds wonderful. Oh, Eileen Perez, I could talk to you all night. I could listen to you all night. Thank you so much for being here. Eileen Perez, ladies and gentlemen. Well, what a night it has been. Such extraordinary talents that have already graced our stage here at the Greene Space in New York. We are about to bring out our final performers this evening. They are also performing in New York City this week. They'll be singing later this week at Lincoln Center's White Light Festival. We couldn't bring the whole 70-person choir and the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra to the Greene Space, alas. We would have tried if we could. But we do, very luckily, have 20 members of the Choral Le Chateau and their conductor, Damien Sneed. Please join me in giving them the warmest possible Greene Space welcome. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you a bit about, when I said the name Damien Sneed, there was a whoop out here somewhere in the audience. He is a pianist, organist, conductor, composer, producer, arranger, and arts educator whose work spans so many different types of genre. He is also the founder and artistic director of this very fine choir assembling before me, Choral Le Chateau. We're going to hear some excerpts from the Abyssinian Mass by none other than Wynton Marsalis. That is a work that was first premiered in 2008 for the 200th anniversary of the famous Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. We're going to hear the first song, the Lord's Prayer, and then I'm going to have a chat with Damien Sneed, and then there will be more performing. Damien, come up on stage. Thank you so much for being here. Very quickly, welcome. Yes, another. We're going to talk in more length shortly, but just tell us, you're dedicating this performance to someone very special indeed.
Yes, I'm dedicating this to a very special person that we recently lost, but her voice will live on, a voice unlike any other voice in the earth, and that is Jessie Norman. And her sister is here singing with us right here, Elaine Norman Sturkey.
Thank you so much. I'll be back shortly. Thank you. Wow. Thank you. That was the Lord's Prayer from Wynton Marsalis' Abyssinian Mass, performed by Choral Le Chateau and Damien Sneed. Fear not, there is more to come. I feel very guilty getting up here on stage. But Damien, first of all, welcome. Welcome to this wonderful choir of yours. Tell us briefly about this work and how it came about and what's the story behind it.
Well, this work was commissioned by the historic Abyssinian Baptist Church to commemorate their bicentennial in 2009. This is the 10th year that it's been around, and they commissioned Wynton Marsalis, my mentor, to write this work. There are about 20 movements, and each movement is a mixture of convergence of different sounds, a confluence of different genres, musical styles, from classical to blues to jazz to Geechee music to the spiritual to the work song, everything you could find in the African-American diaspora of musical genre and style, and a typical to that. And it features Wynton Marsalis on trumpet along with the Jazz Lincoln Center Orchestra and my choral group, Choral Le Chateau.
Wonderful. And as I said, you can hear it, the whole thing, at White Light Festival later this week. Now, I feel very lucky because I was sitting over there, which meant that I had this bird's eye view of your face as you were conducting. And I'm sorry for the rest of you because it really is something very, very, very special. Am I right? I mean, these kind of musical communicators don't come around very often. Wynton Marsalis, though, is one of them, and I would love to hear you talk a bit more about your relationship, your collaborations with him, the fact that he's your mentor. What a mentor.
Yes.
How lucky are you?
The reason I looked to him is when I heard that he won Artist of the Year for the Grammy Awards in classical and in jazz 2 consecutive years in a row. And for me, growing up in Augusta, it was hard because people tried to put me in a box and say, you can't play jazz music and classical, your technique won't be good enough, and you can't play gospel and play classical, and you can't sing and do this. And I said, well, I know someone that does multiple styles, and that was Wynton Marsalis. So he's been a mentor, but I had no idea that years later, this work would become a platform to show people that you can have a gathering of singers and musicians that can play any style of music with technique, with thought, with intention. And it doesn't matter the genre or what it is, but the music can still communicate and be a universal language.
Yeah, guess what? Music is music. I really believe that with all my soul. Okay, tell us about this wonderful choir.
Oh, this choir is amazing. I mean, I have Stephanie here, who I went to high school with in Augusta, Georgia. I have friends from school, from graduate school, from Manhattan School of Music. There are people I used to be at church with and sing with, people that I met when I was in high school. I'm just looking around. There are professional singers here. The guy standing right behind you is having his Metropolitan Opera debut. And Lynn Tesori's Intimate Apparel. Yes, written by Ricky Ian Gordon. Yeah. We have Broadway singers back here, other choral conductors who I'm fortunate they will take the time to sit under my watch and under my conducting. We have amazing singers, jazz singers, gospel singers, recording artists. I mean, you name it. A nurse. We have everything up here.
That is so fantastic. And what was it about, what did you want to create with this choir? Because you founded it. What would you say the kind of animating spirit, the guiding principle of what you guys do is?
It was relationship. I chose and selected singers that I had a relationship with that I knew, because anytime that you are a musician or a singer, you have to bare your soul, as in the words of Wynton. So it's good when we can come together in unity on one accord, and it makes it easier for us to then allow our electric, moving muse out of ourselves, out of our spirits, be then transported to transmit and wisp people away into a place of euphoric ecstasy, musically, artistically, and also the fact that we are the same as the people that we're performing to, so we can all just take part. And with this particular work, we take everybody to a church experience, like the Abyssinian Baptist Church.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Jessie Norman for a moment.
Now,
and what an honor. Thank you for being with us as well.
Yes. Come stand right here.
Yeah.
So I have to say this because she's here, talking about mentors. Jessie Norman. Well, my father, I was christened, as we say in the Baptist faith, at the Mount Calvary Baptist Church, and my father used to take me to church. I hope we don't cry because we almost did earlier. And he said, you have to go to church to watch this lady. I'm like, what lady? I watched this woman go from the piano to then conduct, and then she left from conducting to go to the organ and play the organ and then back to conduct. I didn't know she was Jessie Norman's sister, but she was my first mentor. She's the first person that gave me the inkling to go do that. And Jessie Norman sang at my parents' wedding. Before they adopted me, she sang at their wedding. And so Jessie Norman is another larger-than-life figure who actually could do any style, any genre of music. And, you know, I used to come by her house all the time for holidays and grew up with her sons. And one holiday she said, oh, we're here in New York. Why don't you come by for Thanksgiving? And Miss Norman saw my mother. And she said, oh, I remember singing Moon River at the wedding. And ever since then, we've been like even a closer-knit family. And she was larger than life. I will truly miss her. We will miss her. The world will miss her. But she gave so much that keeps on giving.
Yeah, well, I feel that those of us, yeah, absolutely. Even those of us who had no connection to your family and your remarkable sister, I think we all feel that, any music lover. Thank you very much indeed for being here.
Yes.
And for
No, just very happy to be here. And just so grateful for your response to my sister. Music was her life, her world, and she was just, you know, just enthralled with the whole genre of it. She wanted to make a mark and do some things that were from her soul and from her heart, and I think that she was able to do that through the course of her life. So we thank you for receiving her and accepting her. She was certainly blessed by it.
well, we were also blessed by her, so thank you. All right, time for more music. We're going to hear 3 more extracts, I believe, from Wynton Marsalis' Abyssinian Mass, the choral response, sermon, and doxology. Damien Sneed and Choral Le Chateau. final. Wow, thank you so much to Korea. I'm not going to let you go just yet. Thank you so much to Choral, Le Chateau, and Damien Sneed. Thank you for this music making extraordinary sound. And as I said, they will be performing the whole thing at White Light Festival at Lincoln Center this Thursday through Saturday. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart all of our extraordinary performers tonight. Not only Choral, Le Chateau, and Damien Sneed, but also Devon Tynes, who I think is coming back on stage. Eileen Perez. The wonderful Eileen Perez. Igor Golovatenko sadly had to go, and of course the boys of St. Thomas Choir had to go home and do their homework and get an early night because it is a school night. But thank you so much to all of you for being here. Thank you to our wonderful performers. Thank you to everyone tuning in around the world through Facebook. My name is Clemency Burton-Hill. We are WQXR. Thank you very, very much indeed. And good night from all of us at the Greene Space.